everybody. This is Glenda with Fralins and Friends, and also Shaking Hand Arts, which is supposed to come first. We're not going to worry about that. We are going to tell a story from the book of Ruth in the Bible. In the first chapter, which we already studied, Naomi, who is Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi's husband, Elimelech, had died. Now, there had been a famine in Israel, so Naomi and her family had moved to Moab. So after Elimelech died, she was there with both of her sons still, and they had Moabite wives. And then the two sons died. Naomi was pretty well right now, feeling like God was punishing her. A lot of us feel that way sometimes. We just feel like, everything, the world's against us, God's punishing us, whatever. But she told the two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, to return to their family there in Moab. Well, Ruth refused. More than once she refused. And she went with Naomi back to Bethlehem because the famine was over. Okay, we are now in chapter 2. They are living in Bethlehem, but they don't have a lot to eat, and they don't have a lot of finances or whatever because they don't have any husbands anymore. So Naomi tells Ruth to go and gather grain behind the reapers to bring home so they'd have something to eat. This was not unusual. Now, what they did was the reapers would take the crops, and sometimes, or a lot of the time, grains would fall off in the field, and they didn't have time to go back and just pick up all of that stuff. They had the biggest part. And so then Ruth is there behind all the reapers, picking up pieces of grain off of the bottom of the field. Now, this was something that was not an uncommon practice. And if I repeat myself, it's because I don't know I'm repeating myself. So Boaz returns, and the reapers are in the field reaping, but there is one who is an overseer. And so when Boaz returns, he immediately notices Ruth. She's not a familiar face there. And I think maybe she was a little pretty. I don't know. But he asked the overseer who she was. And he said, well, she is a Moabite woman who came with Naomi who is her mother-in-law. And Naomi's husband and Ruth's husband had both passed away. So after he hears the story, he develops a deep respect and kindredship with Ruth, because he knew that Naomi had been married to his kin, Elimelech. And he called Ruth up, because she'd been there all day. He called her up toward the front. Well, and I think all the rest of them were taking a rest at that point too. And they were eating some roasted corn or whatever grain they were doing for the day. And she was told to sit with the women and that they would, that she would be able to eat with the women. And he told the men to not bother her and let her do what she needed to do and to give her water. Now, they put a little vinegar in the water, and I know there are people today who drink vinegar or put it in some drink, or it's a health thing. Now, I don't know if that was it, but I have a feeling that was it. So, this is what happens. And so he told his reapers that they could give her drink, but they were not to stop her from getting the grain. Now, when they fed her, whatever bowl of that they had fed her that day, she couldn't eat it all. They gave her a pretty good portion, or Boaz did. And he gave her more to take home. So she went home to Ruth. She went, sorry, I'm trying. She went home to Naomi. And she gave Naomi what she had left over and whatever they sent with her. And Naomi, she was like, wow, this is a lot. She said, well, where did you go? What field do you go to? And she said, I went to Boaz's field. And she told her the story of the day, of all that had happened. And Naomi had some advice for her. She said, from now on, you don't take anything from the young men or the reapers. You stick with the women. Because I think Naomi was playing a little bit of matchmaker here. Boaz was not married. And so she was playing a little bit of matchmaker. And she kind of wanted to stay away from the reapers and stuff because she didn't want her to fall into one of their good graces. She wanted her to fall into Boaz's good graces. This is kind of in my own mind. But they didn't only harvest corn. That year or that summer, that season, whatever you want to call it, there was barley and there was also wheat. So quite a bit of work happened over that summer, and I think it was a chance for Boaz to notice Ruth even more and maybe get better acquainted. We haven't got to chapter 3 yet, but I do know that they do eventually get married, but there's a lot more to the story. So you want to kind of consider this as the beginning, I would say, because Boaz was wealthy, but this is the beginning of a very important lineage. And it was also, I would call it the beginning of a dynasty. And I got through with this one better. I'm not trying to read it out of the King James. I'm just telling you I'm telling you the story as best as I can, because I did do it out of the King James. It's not easy to understand. So I'm just narrating and telling you what I read. And it's really been a great privilege to pass this story on. Even if you're not a Christian, which I hope you are, but even if you're not, this is a beautiful story. And I'm going to stop now and add a little music. Maybe something romantic. We'll see.